I'm Todd Harmonson. I'm the senior editor of the Orange County Register. Great, I didn't do anything, but thank you for being here tonight. This has really been amazing, and what a great movie. That was fun, wasn't it? So not only am I welcoming you, but I'm welcoming the podcast audience that's going to be listening to this on an upcoming episode of Crime Beat, our true crime podcast that season 1 we're calling Stealing Nixon's Millions, because it's all about the true crime behind the bank heist that you just saw in this movie. So wanted tonight to spend a little bit of time talking to the guy who wrote the original screenplay, and then we've got... Sure. We also have one of the members of the cast who's here tonight. So, Louie Lombardi, can you join us?
How are you? Hey, nice to meet you.
Thank you.
You want me to sit that side?
Yes.
All right, so you might know Louie from a few different things in his career. Mainly, my favorite is The Sopranos, of course, where Louie was quite a memorable character. And then 24, where many people really love him. So we'll talk to him, and then this guy next to him, of course, is Keith Sharon. He wrote the original screenplay for this. He wrote a 10-part series for the Register in 2003 that got this all started. He said, let's do a podcast on it. He wrote a screenplay. As Keith wrote for today's edition of the Orange County Register, he's kind of got this little media industry of his own about this heist. I don't know if there's going to be any more. There could be. We're actually in some talks about something else, and then there are a couple more episodes of the podcast, which has been a lot of fun to do. And then we've got one more introduction. And maybe the most important thing that Keith did was he went out and he found Harry Barber. And Harry is here with us tonight. Harry, can you stand up? So I don't know if Harry wants to join us up here or you're just good up there. Okay, I'm probably going to walk a question or two over to you. But this might be a good time to give our explicit language warning, because we do that for every podcast. We've got Louie over here, and I'm also going to share with you one of my favorite things with Harry. As a part of our podcast, we ended one of our episodes with a line that he uttered when he ran into somebody when he was kind of on the lam. And it has become my wife's favorite line of the podcast so far, when he utters the words, "Mum's the word." Now, my wife is a public school teacher, so I'm not quite sure what that means. But, hey, it could work. But I am going to walk one question over to Harry and see if he'll answer it for us. So, Harry, we heard earlier in the week that you'd talked to your uncle, Emil, who is Enzo in this movie. And maybe he wasn't particularly thrilled with you, but then you heard again from him tonight. Can you tell us how Emil is feeling these days?
He loved the movie. He loved the movie.
That's good. I did hear earlier in the week that maybe he was a little jealous, you thought? Did you think that?
I think he's jealous. He wrote a book. The book's not doing so good.
And Harry got a movie out of it, so hey, why not? So we might be able to throw another question to him at some point during the night. But we wanted to turn some questions to Keith and to Louie, and then we'll open it up to questions from the audience. Keith, this writer long ago said that, beware the Ides of March. And
Shakespeare.
Yeah, that was this Bill Shakespeare guy. And In Julius Caesar, he issues this warning. What do you think about that warning, Keith?
Completely wrong, because today, the Ides of March, March 15th, is 17 years to the day that my first movie, Showtime, opened in Hollywood, March 15th. So this is a good day for me. Not bad, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. So, 16, 17 years from now, watch out, March 15th.
I hope it's not that long.
So, Louie, you've got, I think it's 85 credits on your IMDb, but the two that jump out to a lot of people are obviously Sopranos and then 24. What's the difference that you can tell? I've heard that you can spot something from somebody when they're walking up to you, that you know what kind of fan they are.
Yeah, I could tell the difference between a 24 fan and a Soprano fan. And when I'm with my daughter's sitting right there in the front row, say hi. And so like we're out places, I could tell a Soprano fan because they come over with all the swagger and aggression and cursing at me, and I'm like, yo, really? Hi. And the 24 fans come over, they're more like, hi, I don't really want to bother you. Even if they're like big dudes, Like, I don't really want to bother you. And I can tell as they're walking, you can tell somebody's ready to be a Soprano dude. And I'm like, you're like, an old man from like Kentucky and you want to be a gangster. That's me. And they start cursing. I'm like, I want my child, So it's kind of funny. I can tell the difference now after all the years of a 24 fan and a Soprano fan by their walk over. And I bet with my friends, I'm like, watch, I'll bet you a beer, I'll bet you this, and I win most of the time.
So, Keith, you've lived with, loved, probably hated this story for the better part of 16 years. What does it mean to get to this week finally and to have an audience of friends, family here to see it with you?
For me, it's like the Oscars for me. We probably won't get to the Oscars with this film, but to see everyone, it's such a thrill. It's a culmination of disbelief, frustration. You've made movies, you know that there were times when I thought this was going to be the greatest thing in the world and then crushed, and it wasn't going to happen. And 2 or 3 months ago, it was dead. This movie was done. And E1 Entertainment, company based in Canada, came in and bought the rights. And so now I'm just so happy that people can get to see it. And the audiences seem to like it.
Yeah, the reviews love it. A lot of reviewers love it. It's being well accepted, which is great. I actually think it. And we shot this a while ago, right? A few years ago?
During the Obama administration.
Who's that? I don't follow politics. I'll tell you where any pizza place in the country is in 2 seconds. But yeah, it was actually, shooting this film was actually a while ago, and we didn't know what happened to it. And then, like he said, E1 picked it up, and they kind of did a pretty good job getting it out there. And these days, like he was saying, I've been in movies where $100 million movies with like Robin Williams and like Billy Crystal, and you go, wow, this is going to be like one of the biggest movies ever. And it bombs more than anything. And then you do a little movie. I've done several little films that have really spawned my career where it blew it out of the water. And thinking you're just doing a day on a movie, it turns out to get more hype than the bigger film. So in anything in life, you never know what to expect. You put your heart in stuff, you get out there, you roll with it, and if it works, it works. If it don't, you do something else,
So you both kind of hit on something I wanted to ask. What is that like to know that this movie was so close a couple times? The distribution deal was set, premiered in Monaco, and everything looks like, hey, it's going to happen, and then it all falls apart for a while, and now you get back to this point. Is it something that you live and die with every moment, or do you just kind of put it in the back of your mind and say, if it ever happens, great?
Go ahead.
No, I have a different mentality, like I said, toward the whole business. I do my job. I've never really watched The Sopranos or 24. And I was on Entourage too. And I've never really watched anything I do. To me, it's a job. I get paid, and I move on to the next project. And whatever happens with that, it's in the process of whatever happens. If you start basing your whole life on one thing that you expect so much and it lets you down, then you become miserable. But if you are confident in what you do, you keep doing stuff, and eventually something good will come out of life, you know? If you get a job and you get fired, do you quit and never go back to work again? Well, I did. That's why I became an actor. No, but it's like I told you, I've done many films, and the bigger films I do seem to not do as well as the little films. So I take every film like it's a big film. Whatever role it is, I take that as it's a big role.
For me, anything that happens now is just gravy. So I had written this off a long time ago, and so when I start to see it, we got invited to Hollywood this week. I got to have dinner with this guy and the rest of the cast. My son gets to introduce me, you know, to all my friends who I've ever had in the world. All of you are here. Like, everyone I know is here.
Are you all his friends for real?
Yeah.
And you stood for the whole movie and you're here still now? You guys are good friends. My friends in my Bronx would be out robbing your cars now. They'd be in the parking lot. They'd be like, all right, all the friends are in here breaking into cars.
Yeah, that's them.
All right, Louie, it sounded like at some point you had a career choice to make where you could have played the criminal type, or you could play cops. I heard that you kind of chose one over the other. Why did you make that choice, and then why criminal now?
I've never chose anything. Fortunately, you know, and again, it's another, what you see inside of yourself is what people see. You get it? And as an Italian-American, a bigger guy, everyone immediately says gangster, right? I've played 2 gangsters or 3 gangsters in 70 films. Sopranos, I was the FBI agent. 24, I was the FBI agent. Entourage, I just played a neighborhood guy. I mean, if you look at my career, and this is one thing I do pride myself on, and it's not about going, I'm going to pick this because of this. It's what comes down the pipe for you in life. Again, you take what you get, even as far as expecting things to be big. Take whatever it is, appreciate it, put your heart into it, because you never know what's going to come out of it. And fortunately, I see myself inside and out as a different person. I don't see myself as I'm a gangster, even though I grew up with all of them in the Bronx. Didn't mean as I see myself as your neighbor. I see myself as your cop. I see myself as whatever it is. You know, I just feel what you see yourself in inside is what people see outside. So I just believe, you know, I never chose my roles. They've chosen me by what people see in the room of myself. And each role I've done, I consider it to be almost like a child. You know, each role you do as a child, some you love more for different reasons than others. Not that you don't love your children more, but you love each child in a different, unique way, correct? If you have 5 kids, you're like, oh, this kid's funny, this kid's cool, this kid's smart. You know, you have 5 kids. That's the way my roles are. Each one is extremely important in its own unique way. And fortunately, I have a great career, and I've been doing this for 27 years. And I've never gotten stereotyped into any gangster anything. And my career path has just taken its way.
So what drew you to this movie? What'd you like about Polly?
I actually liked the script. I thought it was great, an interesting story. I like stories. When I do a film, it's more about, oh, who's in it? Oh, I'm going to have fun playing with these dudes. You know, I mean, I've been fortunate. My first film was Natural Born Killers. I moved to Hollywood. Got to Hollywood one day, I met Oliver Stone, and I was an idol of mine growing up, and I'm like in a room with Oliver Stone, my first day in Hollywood. I was like, oh my God, there's an idol of mine. And I'm staring at him, and he looks at me, he saw my independent film I did, he goes, I'm gonna put you in my next movie. And I'm like, are you kidding? I had no union card, nothing. My first week in Hollywood, I drove from the Bronx to Sundance. Sundance, the movie was a hit. I drove from Sundance to LA, I met Oliver with somebody, I drove him to a meeting, I'm sitting with my idol. Like, how weird does that get? And you're like, oh my God, this guy's like been an idol of mine for my whole life, like a filmmaker. Like, I'm not a big Scorsese guy, or, you know, I'm more of an Oliver Stone guy. My first day, I'm with him. Looks at me, goes, I'm gonna put you in my next movie. I love your look. I was like, you know, 25 years old. I was like, wow, really? I leave, Natural Born Killers. Next couple months, I'm with Robert Downey, Woody Harrelson, Tommy Lee Jones, Juliette Lewis, shooting this massive movie in Chicago with a guy that I wanted to be like. So it became my film school and stuff. You know, I was like, wow, I'm learning from the guy that I idolized my whole life. So again, you don't know, you know, like who's gonna be in projects. I like to know who I'm working with. What actors? Are you gonna have fun? You know, and this cast, my buddy's the producer, Anthony, so when he cast me in the film, it was kind of a funny way I got cast, because I went in for the audition and I cursed up a storm. And I get a call the
I can't believe that. It's hard to believe.
You see me at the other Q&As, I'm calm. So it's kind of like, so when Anthony called me, you know, I went in, I met the director, and the guy calls my house. Anthony's like, hey, man, you did good, but you kind of cursed too much. The guy's kind of like, you know, wants to speak to you. I said, what the f*** do you want? And he's like, that's it. That's what we need. I tell him to call me. The director calls me, Mark. He goes, Louie, I love you, blah, blah, blah. You know, you just don't. I go, man, just whatever. I talk to him for an hour on the phone. I wake up at 1 in the afternoon every day. I don't go to bed till 6 a.m. I read. I don't really watch television. I don't really drink. I don't go out. You know, all I do is read. So I wake up at 2 in the afternoon. People are like, look at this guy waking up at 2. But you don't go to bed till 6, you know? So he calls me, he wakes me up. He's like, you just waking up? This guy must have been like, what am I hiring? This vulgar cursing guy who's waking up at 2 in the afternoon? Talk to him for an hour. He goes, don't even come back in. You got the role. And here we are, you know, and it turned out to be one of the best roles I've ever had. Like, you know, in my eyes, working with that group of actors was great. Thank you.
So, Keith, anybody who's caught up with the podcast knows this, and everybody, of course, is caught up with the podcast, right? But just in case somebody isn't, what did you tell Rachel Taylor, who played Molly in the movie, that made her choke up?
Oh, that's a good story. I remember Harry telling me about the story. Always came to life to me when Harry talked about escaping to Brookville and meeting a woman named Marlene Brady. That was her real name. And so when I went out to Rachel Taylor's house to interview her for the podcast, and she didn't know the backstory between Harry and Marlene. I had interviewed Marlene in 2002, just before she died. And then I interviewed her niece. And her niece told me that when she was dying, pancreatic cancer, she reached out to her niece and said that her best boyfriend ever was Harry Barber. She'd had a difficult series of guys after he was arrested. And Harry called her on the phone, I believe it was the night before she died, and asked if he could put roses in her casket. And so she was buried with roses from Harry Barber. And when I told that to Rachel Taylor, she teared up during the interview. And that, to me, that's why this movie is great. It's the little moments between the brothers, it's the moments between the detectives, and the moments between Harry and Molly in the film.
Louis, does it help to know all those kinds of details when you're playing somebody, especially if it's something that's based on a true story, or is it easier to just kind of go in clean and not have anything in your mind that would kind of ground you to reality?
Well, sometimes it depends. If it's a story like this, which is true, sometimes you want to know stuff that's happened so you can make it better or stronger. But most movies, like I said, I kind of go in and I do me, you know, like as an actor, like with the team, but I kind of believe what you create, like I said, as an actor, is what you create your own brand. So, you know, it's kind of like I don't really go too much into you know, what happened, if it's just a regular story. Remember, like, what's the character, what do he do for a living? I don't really care. You bring your strength to the table, and most times it works out. I'm very lucky where, you know, I've never went to acting school. I never went to film school. I've written, directed, and starred in 3 films, you know. I've been in 70 films. I've been in 10 series. I won an Emmy for 24, you know. So it's like...
Edgar. Long live Edgar.
But thanks. But, you know, I believe in, like, you just get out there. You know, I actually went to 5th grade, you know, and I've written 30 scripts. I've learned how to read and write, you know, when I was a kid, and that's why people put too much pressure on their kids to do stuff, and kids don't do it at a resistance of what you make them do. You know, that's why with my daughter, I'm like, you do what you got to do. If you feel you don't want to do something, you're going to force someone. And I didn't do that. I didn't go to school. I didn't do film school or acting school, and fortunately, my determination and, again, what I see in my mind never stopped me, and look where I am now. You know, and one of my career highlights was being on the, you know, I did Sopranos for a long time. And then I did 24 right after. So the year we were at the Emmys, the year we won, because we were nominated for several years, the year we won, I was on 24, and we were up against Sopranos. And in the front row, there was Gandolfini and the whole cast. And we were like 5 rows behind because we were like, you know, and a little deeper, and they thought they were going to win Sopranos. So they were in the front row. And they said 24, and we got up there, and it's like the career highlight of my life was watching all the Soprano dudes going crazy for me because I was just on their show, you know, a couple of years before. And they were so happy. Gandolfini, who I knew way before Sopranos, was jumping up and down. I was like sitting there with the Emmy in my hand going, wow, this is like surreal. You know, 2 shows I'm on, both of them an Emmy. And again, it wasn't like I tried, like, you know, they just cast me in both shows and it worked out, you know. So you just, again, you never know. You put your heart into whatever you do. You open a business, you make a movie, it's all the same. Put your 100%. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, you don't get down. That should motivate you and learn and get stronger and do better, and you will learn from your mistakes and get stronger on the next stuff. And that's me. I tell my daughter all the time, oh, yeah, I didn't get that audition? Watch the next one. She's like, she stares at me, and I'm like, you watch. And boom, before you know it, I'm in more movies. You know, and I try to teach her that. You don't get down. You don't get depressed. You don't get sad. You don't get miserable. You get stronger. Rejection makes you stronger. And anybody who don't believe that, you guys have no clue. And you know what? The funny part is most of the people I grew up with are doing 25 years in prison. Seriously. And that's the reality of the life where I came from. And they all watch me. Like, I get calls from all the prisons and letters going, you know, oh my God, we're watching you in the prison room. We're watching you here. That's hysterical. You're the cop. Ha, ha, ha. You know? And I'm like, yeah, I'm the FBI, you know? But again, you know, that could have been my pet. So I kind of wake up every day with a different perspective. You know, I wake up happy and blessed, and whether you got money or whether you don't have money, life is still good.
Well, that's great. One thing I really enjoyed about the movie was its love of the movies. And that's something that we kind of carried through in the podcast so far. And so it's kind of a reminder. We did take a survey, and anybody who hasn't filled out a ballot yet, we have been counting down our top bank heist movies throughout the podcast, and we want to have the audiences vote for top heist movies. We kind of expanded it even beyond just the bank heist movies. So if you haven't had a chance to do that, there are some ballots. Caroline Wong in the back has those, and feel free to fill one out. And we're also going to have a drawing that will give something away in just a little bit. On that note, Keith and I debated a lot about the top bank heist movies, and it was a matter of us determining not just what were our favorites, but really what were the best. And my favorite is Out of Sight for many reasons. I just love the movie. I think it's maybe Soderbergh's best movie. But we both agreed on the number one. Out of Sight finished number 2. Keith, what is it about our number 1 choice that made it clearly the best bank heist movie?
The screenplay. Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid is something that I just will put on and watch the opening 5 minutes of that movie. I could see Redford and Newman reading or acting with a William Goldman script. You know, that's the top of movie making to me. You have any heist favorite?
It would be, what was the one with De Niro?
Heat?
Heat.
Yeah, that's good.
Heat was great. If you watch that film, I mean, like I said, I go to the movies 3 nights a week. I have no life. And I really do. I go to the AMC 3 nights a week, and I'm just a movie guy, and I think Heat was definitely one of the best.
It's on the list.
Right?
Yeah.
You watch that, it's like watching a documentary when you get to that shootout, and it goes on for 20 minutes, and you're still like, wow, you know?
Yeah. But Butch Cassidy, I mean, that's the best.
He may be a little older than me.
Oh, yeah.
Gotta tell you I'm gonna
That's
bust
true.
somewhere, yeah.
That's
He's
true.
been too nice to me, so.
Louis, I heard that you had some comments about Keith's jacket, by the way.
I said he looked like Pimp Daddy. I go, man,
Thank
where's
you.
your stick?
Where's my stick?
Cane. That's how old I am. I call it a stick.
I need a cane, yes.
Nice. We are going to open up for some audience questions in just a moment, but I had one more for Harry that I'm hoping that he'll answer for us. Harry, what did the movie get the most right, and what was it just absolutely wrong about?
We were in there 3 days.
Wait, what did you say? I didn't hear you.
We were in the bank 3 nights.
Yeah,
So that's right.
that's right. Yeah.
And there was a lot of money. Thought we were a lot smarter than what we were, but this is the way life goes.
What did they get wrong?
Oh, I loved it. You know, it's. Well, that's no.
Hey Harry, did you leave the dishes in the dishwasher?
That's a lie.
Oh, so there was no dishwasher thing?
There was a dishwasher, but I had a cleaning crew come in and clean the whole place. I stood outside and I knew what happened, but this was a movie.
All right, thanks, Eric. All right, who has a question? Please raise your hand. I'll bring the mic over. And I think it's mainly, hopefully, Louie and Keith, unless we can convince Harry of a couple others. I'll walk back here. Just a sec.
Okay. So Keith, with all the different permutations of the script, did you have a favorite scene that just never made it to this final film? And if so, can you describe the great scene that we're missing?
So the part that I was disappointed about that isn't there is that Molly Murphy, the Rachel Taylor character in real life, had a twin sister. It was Marlene Brady and Darlene was a cop. And so it was not her father who was the cop, it was the twin sister. And I always thought that was a great detail. But the filmmaker wanted to go a different direction. So.
All right, we are being warned that we just have a few minutes, so how about another question? Let's see, right here.
Hey,
Fred.
Keith, what I remember a 19-year-old kid in college who found out a counterfeiting scheme, stumbled onto a counterfeiting scheme, and I think we have to give a little shout out to our boy Wayne Wurzer right now.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah,
Friend of mine.
so you and Wayne Wurzer stumbled onto a counterfeiting scheme as 19-year-old reporters in junior college, and then you go on to your next script, and then 17 years later, there's a theme here. You seem to like a certain kind of brand, and why is that, and what do we look forward to next? Because I don't know if I can wait 17 years.
My mom raised me on Agatha Christie, and I was always a crime guy. And even I write general assignment features for the Register, but the ones that I like the best are cops and robbers. So always have since I was 19.
We have somebody over here. Okay.
Oh, Dylan. Oh boy, here we go. Here we go.
Hope we don't ask about the jacket.
So this one's for Louie. How stoned was Travis during the filming of this?
Where did you get that?
The entire film.
No, I mean he's the one thing I like about this crime film is it's a comedic tale. It's almost fantasy-like with a true story, and I think he played it great. I think Travis did a great job. He kind of made it a lovable, likable guy instead of a hard guy where most bank robbers are. Everybody wants to be a tough guy. Travis went to the set every day. He was the nicest he was probably the nicest actor I've ever worked with. And I've worked with every single person. He was definitely one of the nicest people. This whole cast was great, but as a movie star, which Travis is on his way to be, he had no ego. He didn't mind making himself look silly or kind of being stupid in certain things, and he really didn't. Like, even when he was playing some of these things and his looks and his things, and most leading men wouldn't do that. They want to be the cool, good-looking dude, and he kind of gave himself, more of a laughing kind of vibe, which I thought was great. So if he came across stoned, maybe he was, Good for him.
All right. Any one last question? All right, right up here.
Where did The Inside Man rank on your list of heist flicks?
The Inside Man, I believe, was 4th on the list.
That's pretty good.
I'm a big fan of Spike Lee.
And I think we noted in the podcast that was really one of the best heist plans.
Right, right.
Like this one. So we love that part of it. All right. We need to wrap up, so I want to do some thank yous. We actually, because people are still turning in their ballots, we will contact the winner by email. Thank you very much for giving your opinions on that and for showing up tonight. To the people who run the Frida, Logan Crow and everybody on the staff.
Thank you so
Thanks for
much.
making this such a great night. To our Southern California News Group leadership and marketing team, my boss Frank Pine, his boss Ron Hassey, and then everybody who is supportive of this, both in kind of freeing Keith up, also supporting the podcast. Please listen to the podcast, subscribe, tell your friends about it, tell your friends all over the world, because we'd love for this thing to just keep blowing up. So thank you for that. Thank you, Louie. Yeah, a lot of fun and great job in the movie. Thank you again to Harry Barber. Really love having you here tonight. And to Keith Sharon for, hey, taking us on a great ride with you. Congratulations, and yeah, let's see another one soon.
Yeah.
Thank you all.
All right, thank you.